Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. First of all, I would like to wish my girlfriend Molly a very happy birthday. Enough of that. I thought it would be sort of fun to look at some of the record labels that, I kind of grew up with in the 60s and 70s, 80s too, I guess, but focusing mainly on some, really good memories of record labels. I grew up with vinyl, and for those of you that never did collect vinyl and you're just buying CDs, it really is true. You'd buy an album like Sergeant Pepper, and while you're listening to the album, you're staring at the album cover, the back cover, reading the lyrics, the gatefold. You're looking at the label as it spins round and round on the turntable. And even, putting it on the turntable, you're kind of sometimes admiring the record label, depending on the label. And so I thought I would just gather together a few record labels and give you my opinion on them. And I've also, near the end, I've done my top 10 favorites. And if there, I'm sure I miss, there's lots of record labels, but I think I got most of the big ones, but you can let me know which ones I forgot. So let's start with A&M Records. When I see A&M Records, the first band, that's the thing too, with certain labels. As soon as you see the label, you think of a certain band. And for me, with A&M Records, I think of Humble Pie with Smokin' and not so much the Carpenters. Nothing wrong with the Carpenters. I just never bought their albums, but they were definitely talented. But yeah, Smokin', Rockin' the Fillmore, good memories. Yeah, and that's the other. And sometimes the record label would change over time, through the years. And I actually like that A&M label more than the first one myself. Arista, who was on Arista? Barry Manilow, but I never bought Barry Manilow albums. Um, I can't think of anybody offhand, but maybe you can. At Atco. Um, I think of Black Oak, Arkansas, with the High on the Hog and Ranch and Roll Live, and Peter Gabriel. I don't know if that was the label I had when I had Peter Gabriel on Vine. It might have been a little different in Canada. Yeah, that's the label I remember for Black Oak, Arkansas. Nothing, it's an okay label. It's nothing, but I do love the color, even though I'm colorblind with red and green. Led Zeppelin, yes. When I see that particular label, I always think of course, Led Zeppelin and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young. Pretty boring label though, but certainly the contents of certain albums weren't boring. Grand Funk Railroad, Capitol Records, of course, the Beatles also. I think they changed it this was probably the early 70s. They changed this. And I did not like that. It's not too good. But the album Survival is awesome. And then, of course, the famous swirl, which I always kind of liked. Columbia Records. Yeah, I definitely think of Bruce Springsteen. Sparks with Big Beat and introducing Sparks. At least not in the UK for uh, Big Beat. I think they were still on island for Big Beat then. But in the US and Canada, Sparks. Introducing Sparks and Big Beat, Bruce Springsteen, Aerosmith, but kind of a bland record label. Cotillion, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I'm not sure, was that their own label? It's Once again, it's kind of a bland label, but I only remember Emerson, Lake and Palmer for that label. And then George Harrison, of course, had his own custom label for Dark Horse Records. Once again, I don't think it's that great of a looking label, but some of you might like it. Decca, right away, the Rolling Stones. Oh, that's who's on that label. Yeah, Aftermath. Full frequency stereophonic sound. I just noticed that. Mick, Keith, Charlie, Brian, and Bill. Hmm. Durham, the Moody Blues. And I think later on it shows their own custom label. Discreet, right away, of course, Frank Zappa. I believe that was his own label. So yeah, One Size Fits All, the first Zappa album I ever bought, and Overnight Sensation. And there's going to be another Frank Zappa label coming up in the top 10. Epic. I love the color, yellow, but, it's so bright, but still, once again, kind of a boring record label. Sly and the Family Stone. Epic. Was Ted Nugent on Epic Records? It's the only other one I can kind of think of, but I might be wrong. There's another one, Epic. Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. Grunt. Once again, a band's own custom label, Jefferson Airplane. I like the font, but still, it's kind of a stupid name for a record label, Grunt. Yay, it's Sparks. Yeah. Island Records. They've had a few, at least two, probably more than two, uh, artwork for labels. This is one of them. I don't know if we had that one in Canada. I think that the next one coming up is the one I remember. Yep, yeah, I think it's in the top 10 actually, so that'll be coming up. Yeah, Liberty Records, Canned Heat. That's about the only band I can think of. Once again, well, it's a it's an okay label, I guess. It's not bad. Very boring. MCA Records, of course, The Who. Lots of other bands that I can't think of. Mercury Records, yeah. I think of Bachman Turner Overdrive and Rush. Those are the two that come to mind. That's not a bad record, compared to some of the other ones. Kind of a nice photo. Parlophone, the Beatles. One of the early record labels in rock. Portrait, that was a new label in the about 77 or 78. Art, I remember Burton Cummings signed, I think he was the first artist signed to Portrait Records. And he had a pretty big hit with Stand Tall. And yeah, Heart. I think Ringo Starr was also signed to Portrait Records. Reprise. Frank Zappa. Frank Sinatra, of course, that was Frank Sinatra's record label. Dean Martin, I remember my dad having Dean Martin vinyl records with the Reprise label. And of course, the one and only Neil Young. Yeah, and then the Moody Blues had their own label, Threshold. Kind of a different label. It's kind of nice with the face. Very, very 60s, man. Or I guess maybe early 70s. Vertigo. I think, yeah, Black Sabbath was with Warner Brothers Records here in Canada, and I think the States. So Vertigo is the UK label that they were on. And I think the sensational Alex Harvey band were on Vertigo also. I could be wrong. Yeah, Verve Records, the mothers of invention, and there's Freak Out. Once again, not a very good, not a very interesting record label. Atlantic. Now we're getting into some good stuff. And also it's cool that they have the Yes logo also, which kind of makes it even better. But yeah, I like that Atlantic Records label more than the first one that I showed you. So yeah, you think of Yes, you think of Led Zeppelin, Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young. Oh, here's the top 10. Isn't everybody excited? What do you think is going to be number one? What would you have as number one? Let me know in the comment section below. Yeah, Capitol Records. I always like this, the rainbow. Even though, like I said, I'm colorblind with the red and green, I'm still seeing different colors. So I don't know if I see the same thing you do, but I like it. So it's number 10 for me. And, it's also the memories of the vinyl records. Number 9, the famous Charisma label. I don't know why they have to, call it that, just say Charisma, but of course, Genesis. What other bands were on Charisma? Maybe you can let me know. But I really do love that label. Number 8. Yeah, Pink Floyd Harvest. I believe that's their own record label. And the other band I think of when I see Harvest is Wire. I have the first three Wire albums, Pink Flag, Chairs Missing, and 154. I love those albums. And they were on the Harvest label. Number 7. Yeah, Elektra Records, The Doors. I love that label, Butterfly. Um, I should have, I should have Googled it to see what other bands are on some of these labels. But all I can think of is The Doors at the moment. But I'm looking forward to the comments below. Number 6. RCA Victor, his master's voice. I think at one point it used to even say that. But yeah. And later, I don't, yeah. Did I show the earlier RCA Victor? I forget. But I remember the Guess Who being on RCA Victor, but not on that particular label. But yeah, that's my favorite of the RCA Victor labels. Really nice. Number 5. Island Records. Yeah, this is the one I remember. Probably because the tree there has boobs, and I was like 17 years old. So, American Bar, Charlie. So I believe this was the U.S. Canadian Island label. And yeah, I always really liked that. It's nice. Not a bad band either. I think I've talked about them on this channel once or twice. Number 4. Frank Zappa with his very own label. I guess supposedly when Gail Zappa, Frank's wife, quit smoking, she had this really bad cough. And so he, in her honor, I guess, he named it, he used to say like a barking pumpkin. So that's what he named the label. It's just, it's typical Frank Zappa. It's pretty bizarre. Arf. There's a pumpkin and a cat. So, yeah, I like it. Number 3, the top 3. Yes, not yes, Led Zeppelin. Physical Graffiti with, of course, Led Zeppelin's Swan Song. I love that. First time I saw it. And I do know the story behind it. It's, some artwork that they found or whatever, and they hopefully got the rights to use it. Sometimes Led Zeppelin doesn't always get the rights to use something. But, yeah. Very classy looking record label. So what are number 2 and what is number 1? Well, number 2 is the Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones records. With the famous logo of the tongue and the lips. And, the labels would look different depending on the album, but yeah, just one of the best. I also planning to do a band logo video at some point, and I mean, the Rolling Stones band logo is probably number 1 or close to number 1. Number 1 is, and there's, I think, 4 different shots. The Beatles on Apple Records. I remember one day going into Woolworth's store, downtown Trenton, right here. And the Beatles' latest 45. And that's exactly what it looked like. And I bought it. So, that was the very first time I saw the record label, and it was so cool looking. especially when you turned over to the other side. And the apple was cut in half. Yeah. Good memories. And then, of course, with the Beatles' White Album and Yellow Submarine and Abbey Road, just great memories. I love that. You know, even if it wasn't the Beatles, I just loved the idea of the label looking different on side 2. Yeah. Makes me smile. So yeah, that's it. I would love to know, what are some of your favorite record labels? And maybe you could also, let me know some of the bands that were on certain labels that I was showing that I never mentioned. And thank you for watching. Remember, please to like the video and please subscribe and check out my Patreon, and have a great day. Bye.
Hi fans of high quality entertainment, Larry Graves here. Tonight I will be reviewing the underrated 1976 album, Sparks, Big Beat. Now for Sparks, this is a pretty hard rock album, and I love it. I love a good remastered album. You can really hear the guitars, the tick, 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 and the boom, 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 boom. Oh!
I gotta charge the battery before I go there.
That's what you said. What are you doing on Saturday night? I'm in bed.
Are you making fun of me?
And you all care. Put it on Instagram.
And the album's upside down.
Oh, well, that's okay. No one cares.
It's just about me.
Yeah.
You're not mocking me, are you?
I'm in bed listening to a CD.
I'm totally naked in bed.
I'm totally naked with chips in bed listening to a CD. What are you doing?
Follow me on Instagram.
Follow me on Instagram.
Canadian Studmuffin.
I'm not creepy.
Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom.